Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gaiman, and this is your round 3 recap of the Safeway Open. And joining me to break it all down is Greg Ducharme. And Greg, we are in the midst of one right now because we've got 3 guys tied at the top of the leaderboard. We've got 6 within a shot. We've got 11 within 2 shots, and we've got 17 golfers within 3 shots of the lead.
This is one of those situations. Oh, good evening, by the way. But
Good
this is
evening.
one of those situations where it's difficult to follow the action because you feel like these players, you're not seeing a lot of them maybe from time to time, and then all of a sudden they're within one of the lead or they're tied for they just jump and rocket ship up the leaderboard because it's so tight, it's so jam packed. So very, very interesting to watch. And I mean, how far back is too far back, Rick? I mean, I got to think a guy like Kevin Streelman is still in the mix, a Pat Perez, maybe some of these guys that are even at 12 under, where you have Brendan Steele, who owns this place, Charles Schwartzel. I mean, you got to figure there's at least 20 guys in the mix.
There was a round of 64. There were a handful of 65s and 66s out there. I mean, I don't know what too far back is. We'll do our best. We're just trying to cover some of these guys. We obviously can't get to all of them. Cameron Percy, who is going out and sitting at 16 under par. He shot a 68 in round 3, looking for his first PGA Tour victory, Greg. This guy turned pro 10 years after I was born. He turned pro 1998. Okay, so I'm just impressed, and I think he's been on the PGA Tour for like 9 or 10 years. So I'm just impressed that he's been able to even stay around this long. It's hard to retain your card. It's hard to stay relevant, but it would be his first career victory if he could close it out on Sunday.
Well, you mentioned how hard it is to stay relevant. He doesn't have a season on the PGA Tour with $1 million of earnings. His largest earnings for a year is back in 2017 at $623,000 for his career. He's only had one season with more than one top 10. Clearly a lovely player to be able to stay relevant, as you said, to be able to stay on the PGA Tour for this amount of time. But it hasn't been an easy road, right? He doesn't necessarily get a lot of events every year. He bounces back and forth between the PGA Tour and the Korn Ferry Tour. And you know, he's got, I would say, at least 4 or 5 starts every year on the Korn Ferry Tour. And last year he had 13 starts on that tour. So he's a guy who hasn't played a lot on the PGA Tour. He's been forced to play a lot. It'll be very interesting to see what he can do tomorrow. Because in this 1 week, I mean, this 1 week would create his best season as far as dollars earned on the PGA Tour.
He and they interviewed him on the coverage after this, or after his round, excuse me. And I don't know who it was who was doing the interview, but he was like, "This is a life-changing moment for you." And Cameron Percy was like, "Yeah, it is. This is career defining." I'm like, wow, usually these guys say, I'm just going to go out and play golf tomorrow. I'm going to, do my best. He was like, no, this is like career defining stuff. He's lived in that 140 to 175 range in the FedEx Cup standings, Greg. So he's like always kind of bouncing down, coming back up. He's a true journeyman, I guess is the way to put it.
It's a stressful range to live in. It's extremely stressful. So, but the thing that he has going for him, I guess, is he does have an area of his game that's strong, and that's his approach game. And last year on the PGA Tour, he was 22nd approaching the green, and it's going pretty well. He's hit a lot of greens so far this week. But this week, the thing that has impressed me most, I would say, is his par 5 play. He's been 10 under on the par 5s, and he hasn't made he's made 3 bogeys for the week. So you handle the par 5s and keep bogeys off the card, and he's going to be right there tomorrow if he could do that. I mean, if you could pencil him in for 4 under on the par 5s, which sounds crazy, but he's been at least 3 under every day so far on the par 5. So if he could do that, avoid bogeys, maybe make a couple of putts, I mean, he's got a real chance.
Brian Stuard also at 16 under. He's part of this 3-way tie for first, now with rounds of 67, 67, 66 at the Safeway Open. And Brian Stuard only has one PGA Tour victory. It was the 2016 Zurich, Greg, which was the last year before this flipped over to the team event. So the last time it was held as an individual event, Brian Stuard was your winner. Not a very long hitter on the PGA Tour, has to get it done a lot of different ways, and he's getting it done here at Silverado.
He's one of those guys that, I consider him to be a short neck giraffe. You mentioned the length. He hits a lot of fairways. He's very accurate. He's over 70% of his fairways, which gets you inside the top 10 just about every year. Last year, that was third on the PGA Tour. And it's so funny, those guys that are typically very accurate usually don't have a lot of high finishes, but he can pop up. And unlike Cameron Percy, you do see him record some more top tens. I mean, the past 3 years, he's had at least two. In 2018, he had 3 top tens, 3 in 19, and 2 last year. In of course a shortened year. So he has reached the $1 million mark in each of the past 3 seasons. So maybe a little more familiar with the lead, but still, he is what you and I have talked about a lot. He's a popper.
He certainly is another guy who's been a professional for 15 years now. And then James Hahn completes this trio at the top of the leaderboard, 68, 65, and then a 67 in round 3. And we've got Cam Percy, 0 PGA Tour wins. We've got Brian Stuard, 1 PGA Tour win. So, of course, James Hahn has 2 PGA Tour victories, the 2015 Northern Trust and the 2016 Wells Fargo. And James Hahn, he's like the definition of a popper, but he does not lack self-confidence, Greg. He thinks he is the man.
Yeah, you mentioned his swing thought earlier. I'm the best player in the world.
That's a nice way to put it.
That's a nice way to put it. This is a family show, as you know. But the thing I love about that, Rick, we talk about this at the Academy all the time. What you tell yourself doesn't have to be true. You just have to believe it. And it speaks to that self-confidence. And when you can convince yourself that you're capable of doing things, you often find out that you are. So another thing we say at the Academy is whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And when you think you're the best player in the world, it's going to have a big impact on your confidence and a big ability. And it doesn't have to be true. So it's not an arrogance thing. It's a beautiful thing. I love the self-confidence. And that's how you get to a place like Riviera and have the success he's had there. He's definitely a guy to watch out for at the Genesis Open next year because he seems to love that place. And then the Wells Fargo, another big-time golf course where he's able to get the job done. So James Hahn, not afraid of holding a trophy at the end of the week. And he is a guy you really got to look out for because he's hitting the ball really nicely, too. He's hit a lot of greens, at least 15 greens in all 3 rounds. And when you have 4 par 5s and you're hitting that many greens, that's a ton of birdie opportunities. And it definitely bodes well.
It's so interesting. When we came into this week, we said it's wide open. I think we actually said something like there's 80 guys that could win this golf tournament. A lot of these guys who, they might enter a PGA Tour field and not necessarily think they have a chance. But more so look at it this week and lick their chops as a big opportunity because of the way that the field is constructed. And we're not only seeing that from journeymen, Greg, but we're seeing it from these young guys as well. I mean, Sahith Theegala, he goes out, shoots the round of the day, and 8 under 64, flies up the leaderboard. He's currently in a tie for 12th through 3 rounds. And then Akshay Bhatia is another guy who he's that tall, lanky lefty who's both of them trying to make their name on the PGA Tour, using this as a really big opportunity to start the 2020-2021 season.
Sahith is a player from Pepperdine, and Kyle and I talked about him a little bit on Thursday. Extremely impressive player, extremely accomplished college player, and he is one of those guys who's competed with the Colin Morikawas, the Matthew Wolfs, and the Victor Hovlands, and he believes he can compete. And I mean, it just speaks to the college game and where it is and the effect that it has on the PGA Tour, because these kids come out and they're ready to go, and they are not afraid of the moment. Akshay is a little bit different to me, Rick, because he decided not to go to college. He took a lot of heat for it, a lot of criticism, some of which came from myself. And part of that is, well, look at what Sahith's doing. Look at what these other young kids are doing coming right out of college. They're ready to go. And that year or 2 years in college preps you. So He took heat for that decision, and he can prove everybody wrong. He can prove a lot of people wrong with a great week this week and a couple more to follow, because it gets you that much closer to getting a special temporary exemption on tour. And once you get there, all of a sudden, I mean, you essentially have your card, and your chances of becoming a PGA Tour player without having to deal with Corn Ferry Tour finals, without having to deal with the change back and forth, without having to wonder where you're going to play next year, all that goes away. And all of a sudden, he can become a PGA Tour player. So big week for him.
This is, I feel like we talk about this a lot on this podcast, where we talk about, hey, it's really hard to get your card. The guys coming out of college are so ready. The guys coming off the Corn Ferry Tour are so ready. I feel like it's going to be even more exposed this year because we didn't get the graduates, right? Like there's going to be so many guys just like all hanging around the Corn Ferry Tour. Like Will Zalatoris on the Corn Ferry is going nuts, finishing in the top 20 every single week. Like how often are we even going to see him, or when are we going to see him on the PGA Tour? You look at the women's side of things, Greg. I mean, we've got the ANA Inspiration going on right now, and you have the most recent U.S. Women's Amateur winner and runner-up also contending over there. That's Rose Zhang. That's Gabrielle Ruffles. They are in contention. I mean, this is not just the men's game that is dealing with everyone being so young and everyone being so good.
Well, I think they all feed, even in the women's game, and they're watching the men's game. And we've had a chance on A New Breed of Golf over on Sirius XM to talk to Mike Wan, talk to LPGA Tour players. We did it every week during the quarantine when there was no golf to be played, and they talked about how they watch some of the guys on the PGA Tour and they learn from that. And if you were a fan of the game and you're watching young players like Morikawa, Wolf, and Hovland have the success that they have, and even before that, you're talking about Bryson DeChambeau, Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, these young guns coming out of college and having such success, it gives you confidence. Whether you're in on the women's game or the men's game, you say, okay, hey, I can do this too, because I was at the same level they were just a year later. So why not me? And that's the attitude everybody has. It's interesting, Rick, about the log jam you talk about, because you feel like there's not that graduating class. There's always just this backup, and you wonder where it's going to go. And then you add to that this the fall season, where a lot of the guys get starts on the PGA Tour. A lot of the guys in the 125 to 150 have the ability to play, and even guys outside of that, Corn Ferry Tour players. There are players that get more opportunities in the fall, but this fall you have two majors, and that means not only is it 2 weeks that you in theory would lose, it's the prep for it. And more of the big names are going to play leading into a Masters to get their game ready, and they may add an extra event. So it's going to be very interesting to see. And I don't think this backlog is a one-year thing. I think it's going to take a little bit of time to kind of sort itself out.
The game of golf is so good right now, and it's going to be good for a long time with the talent that we've got and the talent that we're going to have. I want to try to figure out who the heck is going to actually win this golf tournament. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners. All right, Greg, absolute log jam at the top. We have the three-headed monster, Brian Stuard, James Hahn, Cameron Percy. They are, of course, some of the betting favorites to close this out on Sunday. Brian Stuard, actually your favorite at 5.5 to 1. Sam Burns, who's one shot off the lead, he's 6 to 1. And then you get Hahn and Percy at 6.5 to 1. But I feel like, and shout out Kyle Porter, we've got an Oklahoma State kid one shot off the lead. Christopher Ventura, who he went out on Saturday in something. I want to pull this up because he eagled, I want to say 9. He went out in 30. He went out in 6 under 30 with an eagle on 9. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. It's going to be another Oklahoma State kid holding the trophy on Sunday. Like, he's very much in contention here.
7 threes on his first 9. That's pretty good. That is impressive. Maybe a little disappointing on 13 and 15, but he's definitely going to bed happy with birdie and 18 to get in on even for the backside. So great round of golf. He's in the mix. What a golf swing he has, and an incredibly impressive player. Are you thinking he's the guy this week?
No, I'm not. I think it would be great. I would love it if he won. I actually have some DraftKings exposure to him. I love his game.
Nice.
I love the story. Like, I would like that. We do this every week. I don't think he models as a guy that projects well on Sunday. I'll tell you, the guy who does, Greg, and he's won here before. It's Emiliano Grillo. He's basically the
Yeah.
only guy within striking distance who's not gaining a ton of strokes putting. Now he doesn't, right? He's actually putting to field average this week, which is great for him. And if he can go out and he can do that one more day, he might put himself right in the, I mean, he is in the thick of this. He's only 2 shots back. He's won here before. He shot a 65 on Saturday, and he's 12-1. He would be the guy if you made me make one bet. I'd hate to watch it because watching him putt's like watching Hideki putt. It's painful, but I think he would be the one I'd click.
It's interesting, and I like it. But he's let me down so many times because I'm such a big fan. So I love the same things that you see. So I have played Emiliano a lot in the past, and I've been let down. And I feel like it's like the Sergio Garcia effect. So, but this week he's playing well, clearly, and he's clearly putting. I would say well for him, but he's not the guy that I'm looking at. The one guy, if I had to choose one guy, I think this is Sam Burns' tournament tomorrow. I really do. I think you look at this round today that he played,
Yeah.
and it was a sluggish start. He grinded it out. He fought his way through, and the birdie at 17, even the end of the round is so disappointing for him to make pars on 16 and 18. But he kind of rights the ship with that birdie at 17, and which was a really nice wedge shot, a really nice short putt, a great read. And it kept him in it. And if he leaves without making birdie at 17 there, and he doesn't birdie 18, then this round feels completely different. To shoot over par today is completely different.
Okay, you might have convinced me on this. I like this a lot too. So Sam Burns, who he set the pace through 2 rounds. It was 15 under. We're only at 16 under through 3 rounds.
Yeah.
For him to be in the fairway, he was in the fairway on both 16 and 18. The 2 par 5s at the end of your round that everyone is taking advantage of, and you make par on both is it's inexcusable. Like you've got to take advantage of that. And it would be hard to believe he doesn't do that, kind of 2 days in a row. And I will say this, Greg, odds makers agree with you. I mean, he's 1 shot off the pace, but he's the second shortest odds. He's 6-1. So they're also feeling similar things about this.
Yeah, it's not the most fun bet because it's not long, right? It's not like this guy from way out of the pack, but I think he's going to close the deal. So you got to go with who you think is actually going to get it done. What I love the distance he hits the ball. He's going to give himself so many chances on just the par 5s. I mean, you can almost pencil him in this week. And despite today's round, which was poor, this is his bad round. He plays a bad Saturday round, yet here he is 1 off the pace, which does a couple things. It relieves that final group pressure. It relieves that co-lead pressure. And yet you're still right there. And when you have the finish on this golf course with 3 birdie holes, ending the tournament, you got to be just within striking distance, and you always have a chance. And I like the guy who hits it off the tee the way he hits it off the tee. So I think he's my guy. Not the most fun bet, but I think it's his tournament.
I don't know if you heard this. It was right at the end of the coverage. Did I hear he's going back out with Harry Higgs again on Sunday? Was it Higgs and Burns?
I believe it is. What did they?
Because they would be. Let's see here.
Yeah, so it's I think Stuard and Hahn, Percy and Ventura, because Ventura was in first, and then Burns and Higgs together.
Yeah. Okay. Which they were making the argument. Hey, this is it's kind of a comfortable pairing, especially for a couple of young guys being able to play together Saturday and Sunday, kind of keep that vibe going. Now, they were 2 under combined on Saturday, so they might need to make a few more birdies on Sunday if they want to win this. But I thought that was an interesting little footnote that I didn't want to forget about.
Yeah, it is, and it's important because it is a comfortable group, and Harry seems to be a guy that, and they said this on the broadcast, seems to be a guy that everybody loves to play with. So it'll be interesting to see, and I think being in that 1 shot off the lead spot for both Harry Higgs and Sam Burns, you're kind of feeling like you feel like you have to go get it. You don't feel like there's a decision: should I play safe or should I go get it? You have to go get it. And when you are the driver of the golf ball that Sam Burns is, he's going to have the opportunity to do it. And he's a good putter too. Historically, if you look at him in his statistics on the year from 2020, he's a really good putter and a really good driver. And I think those 2 things bode well on Sunday.
If you think making par on 18 is bad, shout out to Siwoo Kim. The odds on favorite to win this golf tournament on Thursday, making a triple bogey 8 on 18. He shoots a 77, which is 5 over par, and he's currently in a tie for 67th. Not a good day for old Siwoo.
Yikes.
Yikes.
I feel like this can happen.
Shaking that ass, shaking that ass, shaking that ass.
I still can't believe he said that. Every time it's just beautiful. But Siwoo can do that. He can make some big. Didn't he do this at the American Express? He was going along like 6 under through 6 and made an 8.
Yeah, this is what he does. He is either the best player in the field any given day, or he's the worst player in the field. This is so on brand for Siwoo. I was scrolling through all the scores. I'm like, where'd Siwoo finish? Where? Keep scrolling. Oh, there he is down at the bottom. And then I clicked to see what happened, and he made a triple on 18, which is obviously not great.
Ouch.
All right, Greg, last thing. How many guys can win this golf tournament? How far back we going here? I mean, are the 13s in play? 12 under.
Yeah, I think the 12s are in play. Only because you have Brendan Steele back there, who's had so much success here. Is he the guy to do it? Likely not. You got Charles Schwartzel there. We all know that he can close a tournament out. I know it was a long time ago, but he birdied the last 4 holes at the Masters to win. So, I look at the 12s and I think there's a chance, but I probably wouldn't stretch any past that, and the 13s are probably much more safe.
If the 12s are in play, that means 28 golfers are in play for Sunday. We're going to be back to break it all down with a final round recap pod. That right there, Greg Ducharme. You can find him on Twitter at TheRealGFD. You can find me on Twitter at RickRunGood. This has been The First Cut, and we'll catch you next time.